Recently I made videos about the Dying Light franchise, and since you guys loved watching me touch zombies, today I got the Platinum Trophy for Days Gone. The Days Gone Platinum Trophy has 46 trophies included and takes a devastating average time of 60 hours to complete. Most trophies are gotten from the story and side quests, so that is the main focus today. You immediately get thrown into the beginning of the apocalypse action and see Deacon and his wife Sarah accompanied by Boozer, who is Deacon's best friend. Sarah got stabbed, so they send her away on a helicopter to save her life, before she bleeds out. What a loser. Deacon and Boozer stay behind and we get an epic title screen. 10 out of 10 coolness rating approved. 2 years later, Deacon and Boozer are still alive some way, somehow, and we get to see the epic, sexy bikes that are a huge part of this game. In fact, not a single damn car is ever driven because that would be silly when you have bikes. In fact, studies say that riding in a bike gang grows your schlong by 20% each year. The first mission is a combat tutorial and your objective is to chase down Leon, who is a bad boy that ran away from home. Eventually, you catch up to him and he gives you a ton of info regarding a secret stash of goodies. And no, not the NSFW section of the library. Anyways, he begs to be put down out of this world so the freakers or zombies don't come and eat him alive. And after putting him down like my dog, you get the first trophy. Right after this, you run into a car barricade, and after pushing a giant-ass car with pure male testosterone, you get jumped by a bunch of men. I love how I haven't seen a single female yet. Maybe this time she won't come back into my mind. Oh wait. After beating those people to a pulp, we head to Crazy Willie's, which is this abandoned garage that has parts for our bike since it's no longer working. A true blow to the journey, but even more for my manhood. While we scavenged around for parts, poor Boozer got captured by a bunch of rippers, or these crazy ass people in a cult who want to be like the freakers. Basically, they just look like cancer patients and I treat them just like chemo does. But it was to no avail because Boozer now has third-degree burns all the way up and down his entire arm, and it's even on his right hand. So now I feel even worse for the guy's free time in the future. That must be a challenge. You then ride away with Boozer as an entire horde of zombies chase after you for a trophy. I then took down my first Marauder camp and reported to Copeland's camp, which is the first survivor camp you get encountered to. These act as a place to get missions, upgrades, in a fast travel location. I turned in some plants I had gathered to the kitchen there and got a trophy. I'm pretty sure this is a trophy solely for the reason to entice people to use the kitchen, since this is the first and only time I ever used it throughout my entire playthrough. Mostly because I'm not a woman. I then used my first skill point, and after clearing out a neuro checkpoint, I used the inhibitor there for another trophy. I then continued the story, which consisted mainly of me clearing out camps and taking out raiders in the surrounding area. Also, Boozer is basically bedridden the entire game from his devastating arm injury. However, while I was doing this, we got a mission where a Nero helicopter comes down from the sky, and for a second it felt like the modern age again. For whatever reason, they gave the Nero guards and scientists plot armor, and you can't kill them no matter what you do. So the goal is to just hide in the bush and tickle our nuts as we eavesdrop on the smart white man. Racist if you ask me, but I got a trophy, so it's okay. Later, we get introduced to another survivor camp run by this old, fat, short lady, who looks like in a past life she was either a librarian or a super bitchy lunch lady. Either way, she's still short, but has a golf cart for some odd reason.
That's what I'm saying.
I did a mission which had me grab this green crate from a cemetery, and after I returned it to Copeland, I got a trophy. And then I walked over to the mechanic to upgrade my bike for the first time as well. I was doing a bounty a bit later on, and for whatever reason, the wolves in this game felt like a boss fight from a Souls game, the way they just wanted to eat my ass no matter what. And even after running away crying and bleeding, I made it to the top of this watchtower and got dropped like Blueface's baby probably did.
Hey, yo!
A few minutes later, I did another quest and had to clear out a bunch of enemies before going to the fake grave for Sarah, who Deacon is still trying to find but sort of thinks is dead but also alive at the same time. He's not quite sure. Anyways, these basically just give you more lore about their relationship, and it's actually sort of sad. This game's story was super emotional and one of the most in-depth I've ever played. Gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Later, we had a mission where we were supposed to bring this weird-ass girl back to a survivor camp. And I still don't know what her problem is, but the girl is honestly just weird. She reminds me of the most normal girls that went to my high school, as a matter of fact. Anyways, in the process of saving her, the game forces us to have a boss fight with a bear. And at this point in the game, that's actually quite hard since your weapons are dookie water. Thankfully, I avoided being in open season 5 and killed it. And we even made it out alive. Returning Lisa to the old lady and watching a wholesome moment even amidst all the agony and cannibalism around us. Speaking of cannibalism, that poor girl we just saved got captured by the Rippers like 5 minutes later and they carved into her face. We ended up saving her again and then turning her over to a girl from the Lost Lake camp, which is another survivor camp in the game and one that Deacon is sort of banned from since he left it with bad blood. Much like how I end all my relationships.
Oh my god!
And Boozer is quite literally dying, so we need to take him there since they have a doctor, and apparently she's the last one on Earth. But we got a trophy after sleeping around the campfire like a bunch of weenies. They let us into the camp anyway, and you basically get to go and do a ton of side quests for the camp, just like I did with all the other ones earlier. There was a cool mission, however, with Iron Mike, who was the camp's leader. You get to go into the city and basically just get jumped immediately by a bunch of people and have a giant brawl. Now this really got my balls going for the first time in this game since it was kind of hard. And just like usual, you and the boys ride off into the sunset once you win. Or into the cloudy rain since there's almost never sunlight in Oregon. Oh yeah, Boozer also lost his arm and can now park in the handicap spot if he wants. Honestly, W man, he's the real winner here. Quite a bit later, I finally unlocked the 50 crafting trophy, which is gotten by crafting 50 items. Obviously, we got another Nero mission, and at this point in the story, we have sort of teamed up with the guy on the inside, who also happens to conveniently be the same dude who saved Sarah at the beginning of the game. These missions lead to cool things later on, but most of them in the beginning are the same damn thing over and over, which gets repetitive, but I got enough XP from one of them to use some skill points and got another trophy. The story kept on grinding out, and I didn't receive any trophies for quite some time, but eventually you and Skizzo join up to go and steal some items from the Ripper's main camp. Skizzo is the side character who is basically a low-life sissy la-la, and after finding the items we need and becoming sort of friends with him, he sells us out to the Rippers and the leader starts to torture us as you do. Thankfully, that weird bitch Lisa is here somehow and she saves us. I now take back part of the trash I've talked about her.
I like it, Kudji.
After she saves us, the objective is to just make it out if they're alive, and once you reach your bike, which is parked forever away, you get a trophy. The next mission is an all-out war with the Rippers at Iron Mike's camp. It's low-key kind of underwhelming though, because not everyone died. Instead, we agreed to have a peace treaty made again.
Retard or what?
Which is complete BS, but it's okay because you and Boozer head to the dam near the Ripper's main base and simply explode that hoe, flooding the entire valley. We then made our way through all the drowning Rippers to the leader's house, who is in fact still bald. There's a boss fight and I win easily, putting an end to his cult and their attack on poor Iron Mike. Later on, back in the free roam grind, I stealth killed this super bulked up freaker, who was what I imagined Sam Sulek would probably look like in this universe. A little bit after that, I completed an entire zone in the game, basically just doing all the free roam objectives. Deacon is still after Sarah and simply can't let go of her, even though she's probably dead and has been for years. But in order to put his mind to rest, Iron Mike agrees to show him the path across the valley into another area in the game where she could be. Or most likely isn't. Also, they played this super sad music the entire time you're riding your bike, and I'm not gonna lie, that's so not biker gang vibes, but I understand it because they gave us a trophy. This new area in the game is run by a bunch of retired dads who think they're in the military, which is why everyone is in uniforms and shit. And almost immediately, we get to go see this girl named Lieutenant Whitaker, and look at who it is. Sarah, the bitch herself. Honestly, this is kind of a crazy coincidence, but it's okay. Oh yeah, and Deacon gets shut down by her immediately. A true L. Anyways, now we get to go basically do the same missions from the last two stages of the game's story all over again, but with different scenery. But somehow they make it feel new, which it really isn't, but that's okay because the main story of this game is amazing. I saved 10 survivors while I was in the open world for another trophy. Later on, we finally get to be with Sarah and do a ton of missions with her. The conversation is quite awkward because they don't ever bring up the fact that they have been separated for 2 years or how much they miss each other. I guess Sarah really is just a cold-hearted woman, but they all are, so I'm not surprised. After all those missions though, I think Sarah realized what's happening around her finally, and Deacon lays some pipe onto Sarah, but thankfully they don't show it so this video can still get monetized. However, I'm partly disappointed they didn't show it anyways. The next trophy I got was for using skill points since I was leveling a lot during this game, because I was going for the 100% completion before each main story mission. There is one mission in this game that gave me a hard time. One single objective in the entire game, and it's in the Antichrist camp. So it makes sense. But the objective was to clear the camp and then save this dude who got stolen by them for unknown reasons. And whenever I activated the saving sequence for him, simply nothing would happen. And you would just awkwardly stare at each other in complete silence. This really feels like talking to my ex-girlfriend. And it's so much fun, I decided to just wait and nothing happened. But after restarting checkpoint like 4 times, it eventually worked, which was a relief. I then got a trophy after that when I completed the final Marauder camp. Surprisingly, there wasn't many of them, making this trophy very easy compared to the other 100% completion ones later on. There was a scientist in the military camp we were staying at who made this roided up Molotov to use against hordes of freakers. And since I'm the newest test subject on the block, I got chosen to go test it out. And I had to take out an entire horde of freakers. Even with those stupid Molotovs, it was still a challenge and took me quite a while to do without dying every 4 seconds. But I finally killed the last of those blue hair wannabes and got the first horde trophy. I then ran into another horde later on while I was free roaming and decided to just fight them all since it won't really hurt me not to. I ended up killing so many of them, I reached the amount required for a trophy kill count, and then upgraded my bike so much that it's no longer recognizable, almost like Kim Kardashian after her plastic surgery. I finished all the Nero checkpoints, and then Iron Mike died in a fight with the military people we have been sort of a part of this game. They hate everyone, so it wasn't personal. And after brother and sister got done arguing about what to do with their kid, we get another trophy. Throughout this game, I had been spending copious amounts of money on items, so I got a trophy for buying stuff. And now we have finally reached the end of the story. Skizzo, who betrayed us earlier, is like the final boss in the game, and we have to beat him in a super confusing and annoying fight, in which I just did not understand what the hell you're supposed to do. So after dying repeatedly, I made it to him and touched him to get a trophy after killing him. And that was actually the last bit of gameplay you get to do for the story. The rest of the story is just cutscenes for a few minutes, trying to tie it all up and leaving it open for free roam after the credits roll and you get the trophy pop. I actually got 2 trophies here because I finally got a camp to level 3 trust and the game completion. So now it's stage 2 of the platinum trophy, which is to just clean up the world and do a few miscellaneous things. I was actually surprised at how easy the stage was and how little I had left to do. The main thing, or the hardest thing you need to do, is to get to level 45, which can be done by just grinding a ton of hordes over and over, since they give so much XP for finishing them. While doing that, I fixed my bike, and apparently that was a trophy. I fully maxed out my health for a trophy with the neuro injectors. Next, I got 2 trophies back to back. One of them, called You've Got Red on You, was actually the trophy I was most worried about getting. It requires you to get 541 items from corpses, and I hadn't really been going for it, but thankfully I got it. And then right after that, I finished the last ambush camp for another trophy. And I destroyed all the infestation zones, which was quite annoying because Molotovs are low-key hard to make because of all the rare items you need for them. I then got a drifting trophy and finally had 3 camps trust me at level 3, which is the final level. Next, I got one of the collectible trophies, which this game did it really weird and made it go off of percentages. And you only need to get 75% of them for the final collectible trophy. Anyways, I got another drift trophy after that. There's a trophy that requires you to kick 12 Karens, which are like these rocks, statue piles, I don't even know. But it's kind of funny since that was also a trophy in the Uncharted 4 game, if you guys remember. And I finally reached max level in the game. Another annoying trophy requires you to get 200 kills with a crafted weapon. I don't really understand what counts for this, so I just used the same crafted melee weapon over and over, but I got it after repairing the dumbass thing like 34 times. I also didn't use the crossbow at all during my playthrough, so I had to go back and use it 5 times for a trophy. And I only had 2 trophies left. The first one was to get 75% or more collectibles, so I did that. It wasn't even that bad since most of the collectibles can be gotten in the story, and they also show up on the map. And the final one I needed was 100 stealth kills. Because I don't do stealth unless I have to, this meant I had pretty much 0, so I just ran around at night stabbing people like it was a normal Detroit evening. Actually, they shoot each other, so maybe more like a night in Europe. But nonetheless, I got it in the platinum pop right after. Also, here's my playtime for the game and the platinum trophy in my library, since some of you are starting to question how I do these so fast. It's quite simple. I have no friends.